Hey, what's up everybody? Rob here from Ram Studio Comics. Welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to draw a pretty face. I figured I would show you a piece that I'm currently working on. So here's this next fan art fun that I'm doing. I don't know, I just felt like I'd show it off. You know, I like sharing off my artwork, showing off my artwork. I blur words together if I get excited. Okay, so anyways, this next one, we get in some good old fashioned sketch paper here. This is 400 series, and I use my HB lead 0.5, just so you know what I'm working with here, folks. Let me find the center of the page so I can kind of work through there, so the head will be around something like this. So a pretty face, okay, or at least what I consider pretty. You know, it's obviously very subjective, and the idea of like comic style, which I like to draw on. So what I like to do is first draw a center line through this big circle, and I like to go right for the face shape, but this is just a loose guide. Okay, so this face shape isn't going to be the actual face shape. I think that's very important to think about because you need to nudge all this stuff around to get to a look that you like. And so I'm just going to throw in some basic shapes here. I might end up extending that chin further. But based on this angle here, the thing that I want to worry about most is the position of the eyes. Okay, so is she looking up, down, straight on? It's obviously an angled shot, but then where are the eyes in placement to this? Let's go ahead and say relatively straight like this. So she's just kind of, head tilted looking back, okay? Ear is going to be back here somewhere. Obviously if you do the Andrew Loomis method, you're going to find the quadrants of this disc shape that you slice off, and you're going to place the ear back there. You can also find it by figuring out where your jawline is. Now, with this particular shot, I want to place the eyes, and I want them to be slightly tilted. But what I want to do is first draw these egg shapes right there. Now, why does this help? Because they should be relatively accurate from one another. That one looked really big in comparison. Why does this help? This helps because it makes you start thinking more dimensionally. Oh, lost my lead there. Come on, don't run out on me. Okay, so it makes you think more dimensionally about the eye sockets and the eye shape behind the eye. The other thing that I like to do is draw the eyes more of a tilt up. So I'm just going to put these lines in there as reference points. All of this is preliminary reference and rough sketching to what I'm going to do next. So with the nose, I'm just going to draw a diamond shape, or upside down triangle, I should say, right, for where the nose is going to be placed. For the mouth, I'm going to draw an M, stretched out M, a line across, and a stretched out U. Just again as a placeholder. This isn't, I still haven't figured out if I want this character to be doing kind of more of a smirk, in which case I'm just going to tilt these sides up a little bit like that. I think I like that. It gives her a little bit more life already. And okay, so the first thing I like to think about here, almost before I even get the eyes in, really, is that can I make this work with the side contour of the face? So the distance from here to here needs to be different because there's a slight tilt. So there's going to be more of a shallow space to this side than there's this side. Let's go ahead and throw in some eyebrows real quick. Kind of a lighter area expression, so we bring those back more. Obviously, if we brought one down, it would look like more of a smart aleck kind of expression. Kind of wish I didn't do that, so I didn't have to erase it. I was kind of thinking I could Control Z my way out of it. The joys of working digitally and traditionally, of course. Okay, so now let's go like this. Bring the cheek out. One of the things that I typically see when I go for my style, I guess, and I, and some people that I study in realism, the cheek generally comes out and it starts to, curve back in relationship to the nose. At least that's kind of my placeholder. A little bit higher than the nose, but that's, usually what I'm looking at. So it dips in by the eyes and the cheeks come out. If we were to think about the cheeks and the way that they come down, they kind of do something like this, right? You get a shape like that that's never really that apparent on females, more apparent on males, as you start to think about the face muscles and things like that. But it obviously looks pretty gruesome on this girl, so we're going to get that right out of there. So typically with female characters, you want to show less of that unless she's an elderly woman. Then you might want to show more of that, or a villain. right? Villains always have more wrinkles. Okay, so now, let's see here. Get in that chin shape. And this is probably the area I struggle with most when drawing these characters. And I'll be honest, I just keep nudging these lines around, trying to find the right mix. So like the chin's too shallow there. And the nose is actually probably a little too low, but that's probably because I tucked the chin up and made the cheek too wide there. So I'm going to move these lines around, keep playing around with these shapes. And obviously, every little change I make affects, the next thing. So I got to be kind of careful of the choices I make here. Yeah, it's kind of a weird shape here, series of shapes. So let's kind of just throw in some lines. I think I need to extend this chin down more. So typically, female characters are going to have a little bit more of a pointy chin. Get rid of some of these construction lines, see if it's all fitting together, sort of like a puzzle. And let's get in a basic shape for the eyes. So one way to kind of hopefully get symmetry a little bit better is to go from one side to the next. At least this is something that works for me generally. And then I might drop in the bottom line to the eye here. Point back here, tear duct down here. Something like that. Definitely more of an animated character, but that's kind of what I wanted to express here. More of a fun, kind of animated style. Get rid of some of these construction lines. Lots of erasing. Probably spent half of my life erasing. It's definitely not something that I really want to be fully aware of. What if at the end, we get notified of all the time spent on various activities? God, that would really make you reflect, wouldn't it? I spent how much time playing video games? Oh my goodness. I could have built bridges. Okay, I don't know if I would think that immediately, but something. Could have built a home all that time. All right, so I'm going to bring that nose up a little bit. I'm also going to chisel in the shape of it a bit more. So that little pyramid triangle, upside down triangle, was just a placeholder. And I probably need to move that mouth up. Generally, the area from here to here is more shallow than the area from here to here. So I think the lips look low now, but I don't think too bad. Some people have more space up there, right? There's lots of different people and on the planet, so we could definitely say that's just something we're after for our characteristic of this character type. So let's say something like this. Kind of has a little bit of an alien kind of vibe to the face, but I don't know, I kind of like it. So now the eyes looking back, I'll just draw on some circles. And this usually kind of exposes to the imperfections in the shape of the eye. So I'm just going to get in some of this. I think I need to bring that eyebrow back a little bit. And the other thing you can do here with the chin is draw in an oval and put a line down the middle. And again, this will generally help you to sculpt those tiny little inaccuracies. But I usually do that right as I do the final redraw, so I can kind of, fix that as I drop in my final lines. And I think from this angle, we're still going to see some of the side of the face on this side of the eye. So what happens is, the more this head tilts this way, you're going to see the side of the eye and not the edge of the face. So just be aware of that. Let's say something like that will work. Let's drop in an ear shape, even though I haven't figured out the hair first, or I should probably figure out the hair first. So let's get in a hairline, and let's just try, I don't know, let's try some flowing curves down here. Remember, at this stage, you want to really think like ribbons. Also like to think about the hair shape. Let's actually bring this over. I think it looks silly when you put the part right in the middle. So let's bring that off to the side more. Let's Bring this side down, and on this side of the face. Again, make sure to swirl these lines around. We're really trying to find the design of the hair at this point. Maybe a bit of a bun on the back of the hair. Make sure I'm drawing on camera here. So something like this. Just kind of scribble a little bit so that you can figure out the shapes. Again, this is all very rough. That neck was definitely too wide, so happy to cover that up. And I think this part of the neck even needs to come over more. It's always a weird one for me, like when you do these certain angles, the placement of the line of the neck really makes a big difference. I think something like that. Okay, so now for the eyelashes, let me get this weird shape out for the chin. Just throwing it off. Okay, so now for the eyelashes, I'm going to group those together. Big, heavy eyelashes versus one preliminary shape for the top and one for the bottom. Just to kind of get the ball rolling there. Same thing, repeat that over here. I'm being pretty messy with it, but I'm still trying to figure out the design, the exact design that I want to use. And let's get in the darker lines to the side of the eyes, side of the iris. You want to put a drop shadow in the iris. You want to place the pupil. And I like to put a glare on one side and a smaller glare on the other. So same thing, drop shadow, pupil, glare on the one side, smaller glare on the other. And I feel like I need to move that eye over, maybe the pupil over more to the left. Looks like they're not looking in the same direction, so I'll work on that as well. Okay, so now we've got a lot of this in place. This is still the rough sketch of this face, but there's enough there now where I can kind of figure this out. I'll usually shade in the top lip, put a glare on the bottom lip. And just like that, we've got, you know, a more animated comic book like face. We could probably mess around with the jawline. If we wanted to make this more realistic, we'd probably bring the line out this way and then back to the chin like that, so you get a little bit of the jaw on that other side. But keep in mind that for a more animated kind of feel, you're generally just gonna almost always do this kind of sloping line. It just looks more cartoony. I don't know, that's the way I like to do it anyways. So now let's go ahead and do this. Let's soft erase this and clean it up. So I'm gonna use my kneaded eraser. Push all this information back. You can barely see it. And then now get in here and try to be a little bit more focused on what I'm after. Think a little bit more about line weight. I really want to beef up these lines as I go because it's going to make the character look more pronounced. Let's get rid of this. And then when drawing facial features for these types of characters, just remember less is more for the girls. So you can kind of skip some lines, draw in some stylized lines like that little Z, or I kind of look at it like it's an R. Like it's kind of like how I do my initials, so I put that little up on top of the nose there. But again, kind of stylize these line choices. Just play around with some different concepts in the way that you render these lines. We'll just go ahead and shade in the top lip. So one big shape there, and then that highlight to the side or side of the bottom lip. We'll fill in the rest of that. And you see that makes kind of a cute little mouth, easy to do and reads well, I think. Now you're welcome to turn your page. I actually would turn my page here, but I'm using a bigger sketch pad, so it's a little less comfortable to do. But don't think because I'm not turning my page that I don't, because I actually turn it quite a bit. Just in this case, I'm going to try to just work through it for you. Okay, so shape of the eyes. Now at this stage, I'm going to beef up these eyelashes as well. So I just kind of drop in some of the information, get it ready so that when I go to this next part, I know what I'm looking for, and then I'll kind of stylize it as I go. So I'll put in some more tips to the eyelashes. Stuff like that. Get some of the top eyelid right there. And I'll start to sculpt the top eyelash. Same thing, I'll start with a solid shape first, and then I can get in there and modify that, tweak it a bit, whatever. I feel like I'd see the other part of the nostril there, but I'm just going to put a little line for the other side of the nose. I still feel like that could almost be omitted as well. But we'll drop it in there. Okay, so now the other side, other eye, same thing. Grab this larger shape of the eyelash. Break up some of this with some stylized versions of the eyelash tips. You can really play around with that. Lots of different ways I've seen artists do these stylized eyelashes. I would say the main thing is that they're just kind of grouped together because it encompasses the eye. It really traces the eye. You want to think about tracing the features just like you want to think about tracing and sculpting the face. The shapes that sculpt the face and contour it will help you to convey things like beauty, handsomeness, scary characters, all that stuff. Just remember there's shape language and there's, accentuation. Just like if you ever pay attention to people talking about applying makeup to accentuate the face. It's the same concept. You want to highlight things that you're trying, focal points essentially. You're trying to direct your viewer to what you want them to look at. So accentuate the eyes, accentuate the mouth, and then kind of leave the rest open, and that helps to convey contrast. Hopefully you can see that it's making this part of the face nice and defined. Okay, so now let's drop in these eyes again. So I want to try to fix any little inconsistencies with the shape of the eye. Now, since I have the iris so low, it actually looks like the character is more alert or alerted. And you can probably hear there's a bird attacking my window. Keep on knocking, birdie. I'm not letting you in. Goodness. I've got this crazy red bird. I guess it's a cardinal. Actually, that sounds like a squirrel. Yeah, I live in the woods, folks, just so you know. Lots of animals, and they're all trying to get in. Freaking critters. It's all fun and games till they start interrupting your recordings. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled programming. Yikes. All right, so there's the eyes. Now I got to try to keep adding to them, get the glare right. But anyways, since the pupil is such, centered in the eye, it looks like she's more alert or, you know, almost fearful or just excited or whatever. So just keep that in mind. Placement of the pupil makes a really big difference on the emotion. Okay, so now with the hair, I want to try to get a little bit more deliberate with the design of it. So I'm going to, again, think about these ribbons, this kind of flipping pattern that you get in the hair like that. I'm also going to fight the urge to draw every segmentation and get some of the shape in. Because again, you don't want to try to draw every line. It gets very spaghetti-like, if that's the correct way to say it. And it's just very boring. I don't know, it just sucks the life out of it. So what you have to do is skip areas and think about these bulks and strands flowing in and out of one another. You can even have a flip of hair come up in front of the other hair like this. You can have lots of smaller flips of hair, also referred to as beauty lines. So beauty lines are these little quick curves that you do. So you'll see that used in a lot of styles. It really makes it look and feel a little bit more energetic and fun. So get some of that in there. Again, trying to think about the design of this. Notice too that I'm throwing these lines. Okay, I'm flipping them, I'm throwing them. I'm not slowly stuttering and trying to sketch them anymore. I do that with the initial design, but now at this stage, I want to really make them feel more energetic. I want to have a bit more fluid feeling and gesture to them. So this little bun in the hair, kind of flip these lines around. Maybe just show a little bit of that ear poking out to the side. Collarbones right there. Make sure I'm on camera here. Okay. And plus I want to look at this and go, okay, you know, what can I do better on the next run? So if you watch the channel here, you know I'm a big advocate of improving as we draw and completing work. So for instance, I don't want to sit there and look at this and go, oh, you know, I really could have did better on the shape of the face. This jaw just isn't right. Well, if it's something I can fix with just a few line choices, then that's all fine and dandy. But if it's something else that requires a redraw, I'll actually look at it and try to go into the next design and pay attention to it. One of the things I feel like needs to happen is I feel like the eye needs to be pulled over this way. And I always draw one eye higher than the other, but you know, I figure people aren't perfect anyways. Not a big deal. I've seen lots of models where they have one eye is really a lot higher than the other. Maybe not that high, but it's higher than the other. So not a big deal. Let's put some freckles on her. I think that'll be kind of cute. But yeah, so it's basically, I think this eye could be over a little bit. I think the iris is a little bit off from one side to the next. But these are all things that going into the next illustration, I will try to be aware of. You know, the goal is that each time we draw things, we get a little bit better and better at drawing them. And that, you know, ultimately becomes our style and our choice. Now notice too, I'm putting these little glare lines. So this is more like when I ink it or color it. These are glares that I see on top of the head. You know, and inside of the hair, I just do a couple little strands. But again, I don't want to get in the habit of drawing too many of those. It really just kind of flattens it out. So yeah, I think that's about it. This would be about where I would carry it to, and then the next stage I would ink it, and then I would color it if I was going to color it. Probably do all that in the computer. But there you go. So hopefully this video is informative for you. I'd love to know what you think in the comment section below. And if it is helpful, be sure to subscribe and share the content. So as always, keep drawing, keep having fun, and I will talk to you soon.